Okay, hello, hi Jody, hi, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. And it was lovely to have you. I'm from Netherlands, and you were telling me offline that you are originally from US, but we'll give you a flow to tell us about yourself, how you came into data. And because this is the first time you are on our podcast, we love to have people from data background to learn, to bounce the ideas. So floor is all yours, Jody. Tell us about yourself.
Great. Thank you for having me. Uh, I'm Jody Johans, living in the Netherlands, American by birth. I started in data a long, long time ago when there was still mainframes and terminals and floppy disks and such. Um, I actually started at a retail company in accounting and actually in the mailroom and copy room, at where but then I went into accounting where data was real. We would do auditing, and stores would send in their daily reports, and you'd touch the cash register receipts, you'd touch the payout slips. So it was real to me. It wasn't something that was just theoretical. Um, and from there, I went into data control auditor, nighttime computer operations, and that is where I learned how to program. Because in the middle of the night, at that time, there was no dial up, there was no anything like that. And programmers had two choices: one, come in the middle of the night, or have me help them try to fix it over the phone. So that's how I got into uh, IT. Let's just call it that. Um, and so I've been a developer, I've been a DBA, I've been a database designer, I did some, uh, I grew up with data. That's what my life was built around. And through client server to the web and all of that. I've had a lot of data architecture positions. Right now, I'm a senior data architect for IKEA. Uh, I've done data warehouse architecture, and I call myself an information architect because I really prefer information modeling. There's a lot of people who are doing data architecture right now that's more on the digital side. And that being so old school, I want to make sure that what I do is tied to the business, tied to business value every day. That is my goal coming into work. So that's where I am.
So when you talk about information modeling, you definitely know Marco.
I do know Mirka.
So FCOIM. I loved
Yes.
it when I met him. I heard this name, then I found him, and I learned this FCOIM from scratch from him, and I got into love into this FCOIM. And I
Yes.
believe in my couple of weeks back in a panel discussion, which we do every quarter, there I gave an example that I started this vibe coding. Well, I left coding like 15 years back, but everybody was asking me. So whenever new technology comes, like agentic AI came in, so I end up creating an agentic AI system very raw on my laptop. So at least understand the feeler, right? You remember
Mhm.
when Windows came in 2099? So I first installed it. So at least I can have that feeler. Okay, I know. So whenever new things come, I at least try to install it to know in and outs of it. So same thing, I started doing this vibe code, and I won't go into the complete example, but the thing is, if you don't have information model, if you don't have complete business model up to the conceptual model, if you only give a physical model to an AI to build something on top of it, AI will not be able to do it.
Exactly.
You need to have all that metadata of all those things, then you give it, then it will work.
It's amazing how many people think they can reverse engineer things and actually get meaning out of it. And it's when you go from business language to actually constructing a regular ERD or something like that. And you try to abstract things and you strip away all of the language and all of the meaning and stuff because you're trying to make it compact and it's that's where you go to the implementation part, and it strips away so much of the meaning and so much of the language and so much of the things that right now is so important. And so that gets stripped away, and then in an operational system that's bad enough, but then try to flatten it out from a dimensional model or a data warehouse thing, and you can't see any of it. It's like, wait a minute, this is all there for a dashboard, but I don't know which ones are required and which ones aren't. I don't have any of that. So trying to even try to find the constraints on it is hard enough, much less having the semantics to try to build it back. You don't even have that. So yes, FCOIM is what I use.
Okay.
And yeah, and uh, and the language of the business is, to me, a semantic layer in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So they coming towards this thing, right? When I started this data journey like 25 years back, right? I was a DB as well. Happy to hear that you were as well. Then I became an ETL developer. We all know that we work on SQL and PL SQL. I never worked on PL SQL. I only worked on SQL. If you ask me today to create a web page for HTML, I cannot because I'm totally data. So people will keep telling me that, hey, you need to learn this, these technologies, Java, C++. I said these are front end technologies which will keep changing it. And I was telling them one day technology will be so much advanced that you don't have to do it. Now we have byte coding.
Yeah.
Right? Now you don't need to learn any language. So 5 years, not 5 years, 3 years back, when this whole generative AI came in, everything, right? People were saying, hey, solution architects and business modeling, all those will go away. AI will take up. I said, no, it's the other way around. Development can be taken away from the AI, but whatever
Exactly.
human mind do will never go away. So I keep telling
Right.
people architects will become very important, modelers will become very important, all those business side of stuff which humans have context building. And that is what is happening right now. As I just gave you an example, you give a
Yeah.
complete physical model to an AI to build something, it cannot.
It can't. It can't. It doesn't understand. And it doesn't even realize that it doesn't understand.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's like humans can say, what am I missing? But an AI thinks that it doesn't miss anything. So it just answers, with whatever it knows. But being able to stop and say, wait a minute, I'm a human, I'm missing something. So you can second guess yourself. You can start asking yourself questions. And I think along with the architects and the modelers that are so important, I think the idea of people who can communicate with the business in a way that respects them the way that they should be. That's what we really need. Have our business people speak to us freely, talk to us, engage with us. So but having data people that are smart enough to help them without telling them that they're smarter than the businesses. Um, Being able to say, ask the right questions. What is success to you? What are we talking about? What is that meaning? Does that mean the same thing as something else? Uh, the devil's really in the details, just because somebody uses the word product in something doesn't mean you know what it is. Is it a data product? Is it a physical product? Is it a combination product? I mean, there's a million terms that, it comes so close, but then you miss it. And if you're doing measurements, if you're doing KPIs, if you're not talking about the same thing, then yeah. And simple things like country code. So I tell you, send me country code. Okay. Um, and you send me NL. And it's like, wait a minute, I needed +31. And that's why I like FCOAM too, because you use examples to make sure that you really are talking about the same thing.
Awesome. So before we jump into a topic, I want to take an advantage considering you are a data person for many, many years, and I would love to hear some examples or definition from you. I'm a big fan of having right people in for the right role. For me, CDO role has been failing and is still being failing because data people are not CDOs. Then data governance is failing because it becomes so CDO practice and data team practice, all data governance practice has become an IT. People are talking that it's a IT department. That is a failure. I feel those departments need to be part of the business strategy. It cannot run silo, which they are. Now the question comes why they are being treated as an IT. My obvious response to everybody is because data background people are not there. Most of the places you go in data governance, standard governance people are running. So they don't understand the data. Then if you go to the CDO, as Gartner says, CDO role is one of the most fragile and moving role. Within 18 to 20 months, CDO changes because if you go and read those JD, career path of those CDOs, they are not from data world. Now the question comes, people ask me, what do you mean by data people? People think writing a SQL command or Python command, these are data, you are a data guy. I challenge them and say, this is not data, this is one of the part of data. You need to understand business modeling, information modeling, you need to understand data modeling, you need to understand what is data quality standards, you need to understand blah, 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 blah. So I won't go into it because you are the guest. What's your definition of being a data person?
Can you tie it to business value?
Hmm.
Can you relate? Because we are a support organization. We data and IT is all about automating the processes of a business. It's not that it's very few that are data businesses, unless you're selling data and stuff like that. But the purpose that we have is to give it business value. So can we handle it in any way, in any of those things that supports the business? Now, that goes with the idea of, can I talk to the business well enough to have them feel free to talk to me about it, that I can understand what they mean, what they're help them quantify formulas, help them understand how constraints, by asking them simple questions that doesn't have anything to do with data. We know that we're asking them about constraints, but all we're saying is, can product 123 or product 123 is a purple shirt. Can product 123 also be an orange pair of pants? No. Okay. Can product can purple shirt also have product number 8910 or 8897? No. So we've asked them questions that don't talk anything about foreign keys or anything like that, but we've established that. We've established unicity constraints, mandatory things. Can I do this can I have this purple shirt without an item number? Or can I have an item number without it, having a name? Those kind of things, they don't realize that we're talking about data. What is your meaning of success? If they have a strategy. So you're talking to people who are, strategy, they have these goals and stuff, but they don't understand how important it is to have each one of those things defined clearly and quantify their strategy so that they can say, what is success? Earning money? Is it all about sales, or is it about, maybe it's just driving more customers to you? So the same thing, a restaurant offering a new dish may have different perspectives on what it is. So it's like, oh, I've got this new dish, I've got a chef, I'm going to put it on the menu. And it's like, oh, great, all these customers are coming in and they're buying your dish. And it's like, but then the financial people come and say, we lose money every time you sell this dish because it's too expensive. And it's like, well, are we driving customers to our store? Is there a different way of making the same dish with maybe a little less expensive ingredients? So those are the kind of conversations that to me make a data person. What are the scenarios that you can offer to the business and help them understand to meet their goals?
Awesome.
All the implementation stuff, that all just supports that. That's our jobs.
Yeah, so that comes later. I think we are already jumped onto our topic. So just for our audience, our topic is the need to separate business language from the language of technical implementation. And I think that is one of the biggest issue right now is happening because in application world, we always used to start from top to bottom, whatever you need and all those kind of stuff. I think that is where you are referring. Tell us about this topic, why you came up with this topic, and then let's go into details.
Uh, I was doing a presentation about business layers and how data connects. And while I was working on it, and I'm American, so usually I'm more action oriented, right? But all of a sudden I started thinking a little bit more theoretical, and it's like, okay, so you have a business. If you start a business, then you should have a governance layer on top of it. You have a strategy, a mission, vision, values that you want to accomplish, and then your goals on how you want to accomplish. Then that goes down to the capabilities that you build for your organization, but your capabilities also constrain. So all of these different how data was connecting those. But the more I looked at it, it isn't data at that point. It's information. We aren't talking about where it's stored, where it's, how we're handling it. It's about agreements and understanding. And, but there is the implementation. And I was like, I tried to start mapping like where data was in the digital side. Where are we handling it? How do we do the processes? But the processes were business. It's like, okay, what are the systems and what technology stack and what network and what is that implementation? And it's like, then it dawned on me that we don't speak the same language. We just don't, so this is information. This is all technical stuff. And I actually am a big proponent of the idea that we need two information models, one for a business language and one for our digital organization, because there are terminologies and dependencies and relationships on there that are unclear to the people in the digital world. It's like, what do we call, what do we really mean when we say a data concept? What do we need for a data product? What kind of technology is there if I'm implementing this in a different country? What structure do I need to store this in to handle this data? Do I need storage? Is it an event? Is it some other kind of stuff? So all of that stuff should not be mixed with the business. Until maybe, I don't even know if ever, until we clarify that, we're confusing ourselves enough with the digital structures and the digital terms. We don't need to bring that into the business. So to me, I have a presentation where I have two different information models and saying we don't speak the same language, but we have to find a way to communicate, right? So how do we take all of the richness of the business rules, the business language, the meaning, the aspirations, intent? That's a real big one now with AI, is being able to model your intent and keep that. And how do we package that to go with the business say a model, but how do we capture and keep that semantics in a package, hand it over to the digital people where they get to do all of their magic. They can be concerned on how the efficiency is, what's the best pipeline, what's in the implementation, what kind of network stack do we need, what kind of technology do we need, and be able to do their magic on processing this, because it is just data management, but still keep that business meaning with it so that when it returns back to the business, be it on a dashboard or a report or something else, that the business recognizes it, that they can say, oh yeah, those are my words. Yes, I see this. And you've helped them clarify and quantify their meaning of success. That should come back with it. And they could say, yeah, that is my success. Oh, I'm not being successful. I really don't care about driving more customers. I'm really more concerned with the bottom line. So that's where I think that we need to start looking at. Yeah, being able to respect each discipline, but we still need to communicate and we still need to have those goals on what are the things that we need to accomplish.
Yeah, so as we are talking about business language, right? People are a little bit confused between data stewards and data modelers or information modeler. How do you segregate these two roles?
Um, I have a very good friend who is a data architect, who is very into logical physical. And sometimes I'm like, well, it's a conceptual. And finally, people are starting to understand that a conceptual model doesn't have to be a conceptual data model. So we have a conceptual information model. So that kind of breaks that layer off. It's like, okay, yeah, you have a conceptual model, you have a logical model, you have a physical model. I'm sorry, I've gone down a road and I forgot your question.
Difference between how this data steward and
Oh,
data modelers or information model work
yeah,
together.
data stewards. That's a tough one. It depends on the size of your organization, and it also, I mean, if you touch it and you see it, I think that there should be mechanisms where you can actually act on it. So if there is data quality or something like that, I also think that ownership and stuff should be more about responsibility and being able to say what you're responsible for. Like we had talked, I think it was off camera, about ownership.
Yeah.
It's like, am I a steward for the definition? Am I the steward to make sure that the frequency of the update, or that the ETL runs at a certain time, or that the data is out on a separate platform that we need to pull in? There's a lot of different things when it comes to ownership and stewardship. I think what it comes down to, and I always said, it's like, whose head's gonna roll if it's wrong? And then they should have that responsibility. If they're going to get in trouble, then they should have that, at least delegation to somebody. But it shouldn't just be, oh, I'll be it, or you're it, which is worse. Oh, you get to be the owner. No. I'm not going to own that.
So we are referring to, you remember, you are long enough into the industry, we used to call a functional consultants last time, you remember, who used to
Yeah.
understand what is happening inside the application, each
Mhm.
table where it is, what is sitting inside the tables. So anything goes wrong, we used to say, hey, who's the functional consultant of ERP and this module? So then you bring that guy, this guy was, okay, this is the business, and that is how it converts. Are we saying that data steward is something those kind of people like we used to call functional consultants?
I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you get a report and your perspective is, or if you're looking at a dashboard and your perspective is a little bit different than mine, and you don't think that something works, but I think that it's okay. I mean, it's like now if we go into like business rules or something, and email is required.
Mm.
So that being a business rule. So customer email is required or something like that.
Mm.
But who is that applicable for? Who, when do you need it? So if you report it to somebody who might be managing addresses or demographics or something like that, they're like, if you say you're the steward for this, you're the owner, they're like, I don't care if there's an email. So they're not going to update it if it's wrong. They're not going to worry about the quality. They're not going to care. Talk to the marketing department. The marketing departments are the ones who have to contact them. So it really, I think in some ways it should be tied to your business rules. What is quality and who does it concern? Who's using those things? Because you can assign a steward to somebody, but if they don't care about the quality of the data, then it really doesn't matter. And if they don't have that perspective, or if they can't, I guess if you had somebody who could actually trace it to rules. So if you could align rules to certain data, then it might be easier to find a steward because they can follow the rules. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
fair enough. Fair enough. As we are talking about data quality, right, and we are talking about business language and technical languages, right? And that
Mhm.
is where sometimes this data quality issue comes. And one of the biggest issue right now in agentic world is data quality. They're saying data is not available. Now, data quality can is very subjective actually. There is standardization data quality, there is business rules data quality. Share your experience on the importance and how we can tackle data quality.
Um, because I'm an old data dog, and being a DBA and being the chief cook and bottle washer or whatever, when you are a all-encompassing person, you learn how to profiling, to do profiling, and that I think is a real lost art right now.
Mm.
People get a data product, or they get something from BigQuery, and they think that this is it without knowing why. So when you're talking about data quality, that again is the perspective that so if you have a sparsity on a column, and it's like, oh, we only have 30% of this data is populated. This is bad. Here, this is on my quality report. And it's like, wait a minute. Do you understand what that is? And when did the sparsity happen? When, what is was it a field that was deprecated? So we don't use it anymore? How current is the most recent thing that you did? Or was it put in later? Um, so the idea that you only have 30%, well, we just started using it 2 years ago. It's fine, just because all the rest of them. So the data quality, I think standardization is really important. I really like SBVR, the Semantic Business Vocabulary Rules from OMG. I've been kind of pushing that a lot on the idea there. We need to understand how many different types of business rules and how many different types of quality rules that there are. It's like, oh yeah, I have a data quality rule. Well, is it a master data quality rule? Is it telling me how um, should I do cascading deletes if I have this delete on this master data? Is it a business rule where it says, you have to give a customer or offer a customer a cookie when they walk in the door? What are the rules in itself? And I think SBVR is a really good standard to at least look at, to start formulating and broadening your mindset on the idea. It's not just Um, uh, is it there or not? And something I struggle with a lot right now is the idea that people don't data type anymore. Everything's a string.
So yeah,
And it's so hard.
I will tell
Can
you
you
why.
just, pardon
You
me?
you complete it, but I will tell you why.
Okay, please.
I know. No, no, go ahead, complete your thing, then I'll tell you.
I'm just like, can you just put another column on, like saying what it would be if I don't even know how to fix that one. You tell me.
Okay. Now the thing is, as we are in data industry for long, we understand that, and people do not understand. And one of the biggest challenges in data world is that our technology is driven by product companies and SIs or vendors. That's the worst part, right?
Yeah.
It should be driven based on the business requirement, not because someone has come up with a new tool or new technology. And when you refer everything in a string is because we went into a cloud. When you
Mm-hmm.
go into a cloud and you have everything into a string, processing right content from the string take more consumption as compared to if you have digit, if you have codes over there. You remember we used to have a code, we used to convert that code in 0, 1 or 1, 2, 3 because zero,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 is more faster. And then we used to have a character. If you have a code of 5 characters, then we limit our string, our data type, that length is 4
Yeah.
because then when processor runs, right, core comes, it reads 4. It don't have to put everything to memory. Now they throw everything to string. They tell customer it is very fast, you don't have to worry about it, but consumption of cloud takes 100 times more as compared to if you have digit, you have static data type. That's my answer to you.
Wow. So it's vendors being, oh man,
String
that's
should be only remarks and comments column need to be string. And when we talk about string is varchar or varchar 2.
yeah,
Rest
yeah.
all need to be character specific size of a field. Else,
Or at least tell me if it's numeric. Stop
yes.
putting these numeric values in there or a binary into a string, please. And those are so yeah, that to me is a real struggle. Um, Again, I forgot your question because we talked
No,
about other things.
no, you're perfectly fine. You throw this string question toward me. So now let's go to as you are in information modeling. I think let's go into that domain, which your domain, and get your experiences. How do you tackle with the customers and because what I see is 90% of the customers they don't want information model or business model. They actually everybody starts with conceptual model. I can bet if you go to an organization, 90% won't even know what comes before conceptual model, right? So tell
Yeah,
us the importance of all those things which is before conceptual model. That's a complete ecosystem, right? That is where business really understand that you understand what they are saying. That goes into the information modeling.
right. And I think um, that's part of the fun part for me. I'm one of these extroverted IT people, which is not very often, but I really like engaging with people, and I really like asking them. I'm very curious. Um, Tell me about what you do. How do you talk about it? Where are you doing? And that engagement to then clarify, like, what are our core business concepts? What are we working with? What are the things that we care about? What are the things that we describe it? So having that, and what do you mean by that? So I'm working right now a lot with people from data governance, and I'm very, very close to the person who is in charge of the business glossary. So, having a business glossary is golden, but how to engage with people to get that, to get a definition when there's so many different perspectives. So, I love a business glossary, but I still think that information modeling gives you more of a holistic view of the um, data, information in the business because of the different perspectives. You can actually build those relationships. It's like, oh, I have I'm a customer or just a person. It's like, okay, I'm Jody. I bring my IT stuff to work. I'm also a really good cook. I'm a pretty good mom, but I don't bring that. But that's still part of me. So if I need to bring my cooking skills to work for some other reason, I still have it. So having that perspective and what you need for that, um, the information modeling, I think, is really helpful to have those fact expressions. That's what really drives it to say, customer Jody Johans is identified by such and such, um, and make those atomic facts reusable with examples so that you can then start building on them. So that's the first thing. How do I identify customer? What do I need to know about customer? What does the customer have relationships with? And having a dependency stack about that is really hard for people to understand. I don't know about you. Let me ask you, how many people that you know actually know what reference data is?
Yeah. Hardly any.
Yeah, I was actually hired at IKEA to be a reference and master data architect. And I was shocked at how many people did not even know what reference data was. And it's like, wait a minute, how can that be? It's like this is the baseline of understanding for us. Do we have even country code? Do we have currency? Any of those solid foundation. So that what is the core that we're working with? Even like finance. How can you have finance in a global company if you don't have a standardized country code? If you're operating in different countries, you need to know what it is, right? And you need to have everybody saying the same thing. And I think that's uniformity. But then you have that layer of base. So you have your reference data, you have your financial data, you have your people data, and then you can people being coworkers and employees. And then you build on top of that. And I, again, not domain ownership, centers of expertise where you have the responsibility to take care of this area and another person has responsibility to take care of their area, but you reuse what is somebody else's area. You don't remodel it. I don't remodel country code every place that I put it. And a lot of people, I mean, now they do. And it'll be called CTY CD. And it's like, is that city code? Is that country code? Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that you cannot put those technical implementations into your business language.
Mm. Just for our audience, right? When we talk about reference, just for our audience,
Oh, thank you.
people think that Cartesian joins counts just because of granularity, which is true, yes. But if you don't have a proper reference data over there, you also have Cartesian problem.
Problems, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's yeah, how do you join it? How am I going to find it? Am I going to drop something off? Am I going to duplicate it? All of that. You're right. Um,
people don't have
and,
reference tables separately. Normally, we have three type of tables. We have transaction tables, we have master table, and we have reference table. Now, what
mhm,
happens reference table? All these codes you are talking about.
right.
People think if data is coming from source, let it be into a transactional table. You don't need a reference table. But that is where you break because code
Yeah.
can be different from different sources. Same code, the example you are giving right now, same product can have different code and it flies into your transactional system. Now, when you write a business conditions onto a dashboard, you join different, you won't understand that Mustafa can be MUSTFA, Mustafa can be MUSTF THA. You have
Yeah.
two kind of data, but it is same person.
And I think that people get really confused with that because of the idea that it's possible for um, one person's master data is another person's reference data.
Yes.
So if you're talking about like the shipping department and you have different shipping options, okay, it can be by truck, it can be bicycle, but it can be by drone, whatever. And they should, that is their master data because they're controlling what types of things that ways that we can ship stuff. That is their master data. They should be able to update it if all of a sudden we're not going to do drone delivery anymore. It just is not sustainable for us, or it just, and they decide to deprecate that or to put it as a status of inactive. That is their responsibility, and everyone should consume their data. You don't create a different thing. So, to everybody else, the shipping types and the shipping methods and the codes around that is reference data that is managed by a master data uh, area. But everybody else who doesn't use, everybody else who uses it, they shouldn't change it. They shouldn't modify it. They shouldn't do anything. They can use it and augment it in a different thing, but do not change the parts that everybody's consuming. And I think that goes back to integrations that we talked about before. How do we integrate? That's where we really have to make sure that our integrations are clear and right. And I know when we're talking about the same thing. So, and I don't know if we said that on earlier on how math and how uh, master data domains, you can have 9 master data domains that turn into 511 different integration points. And that's just amazing. You start putting one more number on it and see how big mathematically it gets. And so those integration points, we need to really pay attention to that. And owner, not ownership, definition, common definition, understanding, and semantics that go around those points. So CTY, CD, or country code or whatever, we still need to understand where it goes to the business, especially with AI, because you know, AI language models, what do we want to feed it? Natural language. That it understands. Does it understand CTY and as a string? No, it doesn't.
Okay, now let's move towards as we are in the last part of our session. When we talk about business language, need to be different from technical language, right? Now, the obvious question everybody's mind will be is who will bridge this gap?
Good data people, smart data people.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that honestly, I find neurodivergent people are really good at that. I think that I'm a big proponent of diversity of all kinds, and neurodivergent people have a tendency of being able to play that. Um, People who mathematicians. I don't know what role that would be. I think a lot of times, in back in the day, it was your business analyst.
Mm.
And they pretty much did away with that kind of stuff. but it's a specialty. It's that kind of thing that we need to be able to speak both languages.
But business
Um,
analyst roles has been lost, right? We
yes,
talk about business analyst. It was one of the most critical role who understand business, who can write a SQL command as well. But nobody
yeah,
talks about that.
yeah. It's a mystery to so many people in the data world that really understand what really solid data practices are. Is that business analysis role? And it's like, okay, business architecture, does that really fit it? No, I don't think so. Yeah, and but having a little bit of understanding of the business, having a little bit of math, having a little bit of IT, I think, and being able to talk communicators, I think, are really important. You have to be able to talk to all the people that it involves. Ah, and people who are willing to be humble. Humility is something that has been really lost in our industry. Everybody comes in and not everybody, but a lot of people come in, and I believe that we should check our egos at the door. There's plenty of things that I can come into to plenty of spaces and say, I don't know what you know. You're the expert. Tell me. I'm willing to learn, and if we collaboration is the key to a good business. Check our egos at the door and be humble enough to say, I don't understand. Can you explain that to me?
You have brought one point which is very close to my heart, and I was really pissed off when I was in my younger age. Whenever you, because I was a data guy, right? I was into a data for 10, 15 years. You go to a telco, and the telco person, first thing they ask, do you know telco? I said, why the hell I need to know telco? No, until unless you don't understand telco business, you can't build anything from. I said, no, you go to banking. They always say, so these ego part, my apologies to all my friends who are in this side of the table. They say if you do not know the domain, you can't do stuff for us. I'm always against that because if you are a right data person, you can go into any domain. Because for us, everything starts with the entity. And every organization, 90% entities are all same. Customer is same, product is same, finance is same, audit is same, everything is same. Only 15% is something which is very specific and 5% is very niche. That's what my call is. I feel if you are a complete proper data person, then you can enter any domain. What's your take?
um, I don't agree. I'm sorry, I just
Ah,
don't.
okay,
I
awesome.
think that you can't just walk in like that. You can just I think that it's really important for understanding what mm, and you can go in, but you should be onboarded. When you're onboarded to things, they're talking about, here, this is
Of
where
course,
you get your email, this is where
of
you get
course.
that. But you really need to understand, I think, the industry. If you don't, you miss certain things. I've worked in a lot of different industries with a lot of different, and I can't say that I would use the same tools in each one of those industries. There, I
See, where I'm going towards is if you are a data person, because I worked in sales domain, I worked in marketing, worked in telco, banking, oil and gas. I worked in Department of Correction as well. So every time, so see, for me, whenever I go into an organization, of course, I do understand the organization first, but I do not. What I'm trying to say is, which I was trying to emphasize, that if you go into a telco, you don't need 15 years of experience in telco to build a data warehouse. That's what
yeah.
we say. You need to understand the basics because telco, yes, is different from banking, but only 10-15% is different, which is their core business. Rest is all same. So yes, you can do some research on it and then you go in and you start learning the entities. and then you go from that. That is where I was coming.
Um, when you say entities, that to me is more implementation based. Or are you talking more like the idea that these are my core business concepts? Is
So see,
that
when I talk about entity, see, customer, procurement, IT, uh,
your focus area, your customer,
marketing,
your
all are same in every industry. Telco is selling the SIMs.
yeah.
They are a calling company. Yes, that specific, which is 10-15%, very core, is different. But rest of the company, all domains have 80, at least 85% is same. 20, 15 to 20% is very core. Yes, that is where data stewards comes in. That is where business analyst comes in. That is where functional consultants comes in. They go and talk because see, if I need to build a data warehouse for a finance department, do I care it's a banking or it's telco? I don't care. Finance is
Okay. You're making, but what you just made a distinguishing remark, the idea that you had the right people to then represent the business and the rules and stuff like that. There are a lot of people, I think a lot of engineers now are put into a position where they're in charge of that and they don't understand the business and they don't understand. And I worked in a lot of those too. I worked in oil and gas. I worked for a coal company. I worked in higher ed. I worked in
yeah.
insurance. I
See,
worked, yeah.
you are able to do it. Yes.
But I can't say that I walked in and it was a piece of cake.
Of
When
course.
I first walked into the coal company, I was lost, you know.
But you are
Um,
able to crack the code. That's what I'm saying because you're a data person, you know how to crack it because your basics are correct.
Yeah, yeah. If you have your rule structure, if you have your basics, if you have your rule structure, I think in this day and age with vibe coding and all of the AI stuff, there's a lot of crap out there. So
Yes.
it's not as easy to feel sure-footed when you go in and you find documents because it's a lot of times people a new phrase I have is um, PowerPoints are not policy documents. So
Yes.
nowadays people present these PowerPoints and they're like, this is what we need to do. But there's no policy created by that. There's no action steps. There's no hard and fast rules. And I think that as an industry, and I've talked to a lot of my friends in a lot of different industries, but who are IT people, we've gotten sloppy. We've really gotten sloppy. And so with AI and with strings and all of this kind of stuff, it's harder to believe what we see. And that's why we, in this day in AI, we aren't, we need more people. We don't need more agents. We need more people. We need to know when there's a stop point. We need to be able to ask the questions of why did this happen, and have it the smart people. And I think that you really need an industry specific more than just baseline in order to support a business like that. Yes, you can do the IT stuff. You can code, you can do SQL, you can do whatever. But to actually make sure that you're doing solid value work, you have to be a little bit more discerning with what you're consuming nowadays.
Absolutely. See, industry knowledge is again key. I don't agree with that. I don't disagree with it actually. I don't, but I feel industry knowledge is very core and you don't need 100 people for industry knowledge. As I just mentioned, within an organization, most of the domains are generic domains. There are only few domains very specific to that industry, like telco and banking, insurance. Rest, all its departments are same. So you need industry expert, but less. Why I'm saying that? Because I see a lot of pushback for data people, because telco data people are stuck in telco. And
Oh,
we already know that data people are less, and we already established who are data people. Writing
yeah,
SQL or Python is not data. You
right.
understand what data world is. So if you're stuck in telco and you're stuck in banking or other industry, then we are shortage of people to go across the world and do good stuff. That is
Yeah,
why we don't get a lot of data background CDOs, because you want a CDO to be in a telco, you want a CDO to be 15 years in telco. If this guy is 15 in telco, he was not 15 years in data.
right,
Right?
right,
He was floating through different departments in telco, but not data. So once you tell
right.
this guy, hey, I need a data lake or data vault or blah, 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 and there's a new tool, he won't or she won't understand what that tool can do. Nowadays, the
Hmm.
biggest challenge is to select the right tool, right? And right technology, right? There are hundreds of tools in the market. Everybody is competing. So how do you know which tool is right? Until
You
unless you,
talked about you talked about that earlier,
yeah,
is the idea that it's not about the tool,
yeah,
it's the requirements.
yes,
That comes first.
yes.
What
And
are we
then,
trying to do?
yeah.
Yeah,
So this data person need to understand what business. So everything starts with a value
yeah,
and business value, and trickle down to the implementation.
yep.
You can come up to the conceptual model and logical model, but the moment you go into a physical model, you need to know the technology can do it or not. Why generative AI was a big failure? Because everybody thought throw everything into it
Yeah,
and it will work.
yeah.
MIT says 95% project fails. Why? Because the person who are taking a decision, they understand all business, yes, can, and a tool owner came and say, hey, we can implement it. This guy doesn't even know that this tool can or cannot. That is where
Yeah.
I'm referring that data person need. See, the beauty of data person for me is the other day I was into a call, right? Someone told me that, hey, you're a data person. Do you understand infrastructure? I said, yes. How do you understand? Because I said, because if you're an infrastructure guy, you will only understand infrastructure. If you are a security guy, you will only understand security. If you are an application person, you only understand front end. But if you are a data person, you know application because KPIs sit over there. You know infrastructure because your data sits into the hardware. You know security because your privacy need to be taken care. You know performance because you need to. So data person knows everything.
Ah, I think that um
Most of the thing.
I've kind of pulled away from. There are a lot of people that understand that, and it's like, I got out of development um when when it wasn't about my code, when it was about the infrastructure. And it's like, no, I'm not going to be bothered changing my code because you changed something on a server. So that's why I really, when I went in and said I'm focusing on data, because that in 40 years of me being in this business,
Wow.
data is data, you know, and the more you know about your data, the better you are as a data person and what it does and how it interacts. And that's why I'm a proponent of knowing the business, because yeah, a customer is a customer, but I don't know, an oil and gas customer is a little bit different, and so, there is something different about that. Or, a location for a coal company is now become three-dimensional. So, do you really understand what a location is? And but going in, um, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there are things that you go in and you tackle, but I I don't. I don't want to take my space in my brain. There's enough things when you're talking about really supporting the business. I've chosen to focus on the idea of business language, and how to build a semantic layer, because I think that's a big problem right now. People are thinking, oh, semantics this, and like you said, let it loose on a data set, and it doesn't know anything. So that I think is a real important step nowadays, is the idea of how do we figure out what a semantic layer actually looks like. And that I think is data, but it's not. It's like how they implement it technically, or how it's done. Where is that layer that we have to keep that standardized, uniform understanding across our organization?
Awesome. I think you're already 60 minutes on top. And it is always pleasure to see you have crossed me as well. You disagreed with me, and that's the good part of having the right people over there who can really challenge your concepts, and you can learn from different experiences. Because as I mentioned, every organization have different practices. Every
Yeah,
person have different best practices. Best practices is again very subjective to what you do and how you do it. Customer
right.
is on-prem, complete solution is different. Customer is cloud
Yes,
is a different ball game, right?
right.
Customer is managing OLTP application. They don't, they're very transactional. It's a different ball game. If it is
Yeah,
like vendor world is very transactional based, customer will need OLAP as well, right? So
yes.
everyone have a different perspective, and that's what I love about my podcast. That people like you can come in and really give a thought to the audience.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me. It's been fun.
It was pleasure. I think this was our first session. It should not be our last one. Let's plan another one maybe in a couple of quarters. And yeah, new book is already out, by the way. You need to tell your husband that new
Yeah.
version of I Am Data is out. By the way,
Okay.
if he already has a physical book, whoever
Yeah.
has my past physical books, I'm giving free my latest book soft copy. So I will
Oh,
pass it
cool.
to you and
Okay.
you pass over. So just to conclude this again, Jody, it was pleasure talking to you. Great hearing about someone else is using FCOIM apart from Marco, right? And anything, last thing you want to say on this podcast?
Uh, no, I'm curious about the future. I hope everyone else is. I hope that we can actually maintain our humility and our ethics. That I think is our biggest struggle, our challenge right now. And I hope, the data people who are looking at your podcast, I think that we all have to keep that in mind. What are we doing, and are we doing it right, and are we doing it ethically? So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a nice
thank
weekend
you.
and pleasure talking to you.